A Sword of the Truth, The Real Face of India. By Ehsan Sehgal. Note: after returning from Pakistan on the 15th of November 2012, I wrote a letter of 6 pages to Chief Justice of Pakistan, Chaudhari Iftekhar, and a copy for Chief of Army Staff, General Parvez Kiani, on the 20th of November 2012, with my handwriting. Later, a friend composed that letter, which I posted on social media and sent to Pakistani and Indian media. I did not receive the response. However, in March 2013, I bore evil-minded guests on my social media accounts, with a manner of pretended respect, love, and admiration as a great human. I became under spy eyes that violated international law and abused my privacy. Despite my protest, those managed to place their secret, many digital devices to watch my privacy. Whereas they entirely controlled my social media accounts, and they observed my life, but they failed when I destroy all spy systems. I came to know just my spiritual inspiration, and the power of the third eye. It is my analysis and conclusion that RAW became capable to hire the Afghan terrorists, to destroy the Pakistani cities, and the economic system, and RAW managed to conspire the opinion against Pakistan. Pakistan's brave armed forces fought 3 fronts of the war for the United States. 1. Afghani terrorists. 2. Indian hired ones. 3. Inside separatists. Such collaboration, and sacrifices of thousands of lives, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, does not see and feel. He sees his $33 billion than realizing the realities. It seems that his advisors are the trickery, not the visionary. They should find the conspiracies of the Indian RAW. Letter. Honourable Chaudhari Iftekhar, the 20th of November 2012. Chief Justice of Pakistan. Today, I reveal a secret for the protection of my countrymates, their lives, and properties, and the state of Pakistan, through your honesty and fairness and sincerity within the justice, to eliminate the terrorists, who are busy to destroy Pakistan. In Pakistan, terrorists, traitors, cruel, and spy ones have entered political parties and print and electronic media to achieve their evil motives. None of the Pakistani institutions is safe from such ones. They are inside and working for foreign secret agencies. The majority of Pakistani journalists are characteristically suspicious, and their deeds are not appreciable and suitable since they blackmail, impose pressure. They have connections with all kinds of parties. They work for the agencies, whether for inside or outside evil powers. They have left their fairness, neutrality, and honesty. The enemies of Pakistan are busy and engaged in wide-scale conspiracies against the armed forces of Pakistan, defaming and discouraging them, to gain their sick agenda. Personally, as a journalist and a poet, I was, and I am bitterly critical to the opportunist army generals, who broke and violated the constitution and imposed the dictatorship upon the democratic system and oppressed the people of Pakistan. However, I never blame that on the entire armed institution. We should bring the opportunist generals into accountability and justice for their traitorous adventures. Consequently, our armed forces will be more professional and trained since they are the defender of state and people. Our diplomatic missions aboard are entirely unaware of the activities of Pakistanis who live aboard, whereas the embassies only issue visas, nothing else. Diplomats only attend and chair some social events and seminars, which executes just a failure of diplomacy accuracy, due to unqualified staff. I have spent half of a lifetime, for the cause of Kashmiris and Palestinians, for that, I have neither asked any penny from anyone nor shameless media to collaborate for the self-determination of those oppressed people. Our media promote only traitors and discourage its sincere leaders. On the other side, most leaders struggle only to have power. It is just a brief scenario of our society trend. It was 1993 and 1994 when President Saddam's government twice invited to the Islamic People Conference held in Baghdad, where I delivered my speech, expressing my opinion on the self-determination of the Kashmiris, Palestinians, and American aggression against Iraq. Relating to the Muslim United Nations, I wrote and sent the charter of it to nearly all the diplomatic missions of the Muslim states and some other states too. I received a few responses, and one of those was from the political secretary of British Prime Minister John Major. I did not reply. Whereas, the Pakistani diplomatic mission remained unaware of my volunteer struggles. I run the organization without the support of any country, only with my jobless social benefits. I did not become a puppet of any evil power, nor I sold myself to the enemy of humanity. As a result, I bore the isolation in all directions. An Indian professor had been coming to me for Urdu lessons and translation. He promised me to be a lecturer at Leiden University since a vacant place was there for the Urdu department. However, it never became a reality. He always had trickery excuses and reasons. I must wait for that job, while he was earning the money that I worked for him, in a very less amount than he was getting. I needed money, so I did it, knowing his unfairness. Several times, he talked about suspicious matters and tried to pursue me in the greediness for a luxurious life. Once he called me for an appointment and brought in a restaurant, where someone was already waiting. He introduced that person, saying he was working in the Indian embassy in the security branch. I directly realized, as a person of Indian intelligence agency RAW. But I did not react and stayed bold and confident. That person executed firing words about Muslims. I listened to him with patience and calm. However, I could not understand the purpose of that conversation except, he probably had tested my temper. After that, the professor time to time had been coming for the translation since he could speak Urdu, but not read and write, so he needed my assistance. During the conversation, he often sympathized with me and suggested awkward ways. One day, he told me that I was an educated person, poet, and journalist, and above that I had established the Muslim United Nations for that no one would cooperate with me if I did against the Muslims. The West would have given me the money, but not to unite them. He suddenly asked me that if I wanted to become rich, I should bomb in cities of Pakistan, Lakhana, Karachi. I shocked, I could not control myself. I angrily replied to him that what you are talking about, killing innocent people, is an act of murder. He shamelessly smiled and said, "But you will be a rich man." I felt grave surprised that such a person could say it. I considered that as just bullshit and an ugly joke. I decided to stop contacting him, and I did, even I had a financial hardship. I was continually raising the voice of Kashmiris and Palestinians and sending messages to all the governments and their embassies and United Nations and Security Council. During this activity, one day I received a call from an unknown person, who introduced that he was the first secretary in Indian Embassy, in The Hague. He wanted to meet with me. I asked him to come to my residence. He suggested meeting at the International Court of Justice since it was near to my residence and near to the Indian Embassy too. I prepared myself for that, and walked towards the International Court of Justice. When I reached there, I saw a man coming out of his car, and walked towards me. He shook hands and took me to his residence, where he introduced his family with serving the refreshment. He started talking about various topics. During the conversation, I asked him that what purpose was to meet with me. he began to inquire about Pakistani and Kashmiri Islamic organizations. I felt doubts. I told him that I knew nothing, and I was a journalist and head of an organization too. I execute the unity, not enmity among Muslims. Your motives are not suitable for the mutual friendship of both countries. The first secretary became confused, to hear my opinion, and changed the directions of talking, mentioning concerns over China. I made him clear that I work for the cause, not for the money. Such raw agents attempted to gain their motives only from me, or they had tried to buy other needy ones and traitors. Since the situation of the country, Pakistan, and especially Karachi, and propaganda of traducing the armed forces of Pakistan show the conspiracy of foreign involvement is possible. The City of Lights is burning under the terror fire. I still have the visiting card of that diplomat, and the professor had been working as a chancellor of the University of the Netherlands. My writings, each word holds the detail. I know that to reveal such a secret can cause life consequences since I am alone. May God save Pakistan and the nation and reach the delighting destiny.